Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English channel. In our today's video, we'll critically analyze a very important scheme of Government of India known as Ethanol Blending of Petrol Program or EBP program. But why are we discussing this ethanol blending program? Because it has been flooded on social media. People are criticizing government right and left on the damages this program has done to their vehicle, on the less of fuel efficiency that they're getting out of vehicles. So we'll try to understand whether these allegations are true or not. Okay. Now, the session or the notes which I use in this session, if you want to download them, you can go to this Telegram channel ATS Live and download the notes, which will be made available as soon as this video ends. If you have problems in locating it, this is the QR code that you need to scan. You'll find the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you still haven't before downloading the notes. Okay. So let us understand why are we discussing ethanol blending of petrol program today. Now recently, if you can remember, the government has announced that it has achieved the target of blending of almost 20% of ethanol in every fuel that is sold in Indian petrol pumps, right? So theoretically, government is saying that it is able to achieve this target 5 years before its original period. That is, government has said before, it is going to achieve ethanol blending of up to 20% till the year 2030. Now it has achieved this target in this year itself, which is 5 years ahead of time. Now the fuel which consists of about 20% of ethanol, in reality this fuel is called as E20 fuel. I'll tell you the components of this fuel in detail. Okay. Now that the government is able to achieve this target, it is looking to get more ambitious. It is going to increase and blend more and more ethanol with petrol in future also, right? So in our today's discussion, we'll understand first of all, what is the reason, what is forcing India to use more ethanol blended petrol instead of purely 100% petrol, and how does it affect your vehicle? Does it leads to benefit in your vehicle or does it lead to damages of your engines? We'll find out in our today's video. In addition to that, we'll also find out whether use of such ethanol blended petrol is good for our environment or not, right? So let us discuss one by one in our today's video. Let me give you a brief background. Now this important policies of the government like GST, the questions have been appeared straight away in the prelims examination. For example, in 2017, a question appeared on most likely benefits of goods and services taxation regime. Similarly, you can also expect a question on most likely benefits or advantages of the ethanol blending program. So this is the question that I've curated. We'll solve it before the end of our today's video, so no need to worry. But first, to solve this question, we need to know more about the ethanol blending program, its advantages and its challenges, right? Now, let me give you a brief background. This ethanol blending program began in 2003. Here, the government wanted to reduce carbon emission that it happens from the fossil fuels, and at the same time also reduce the dependency of India on import of fossil fuels, because as you can recall, India does not produce a large amount of crude oil. So to fulfill its domestic demand, India is dependent on imports of crude oil, which on an average is about 85% of its domestic requirement. You'll be surprised to know last year, this import dependency increased to 88% of domestic demand. So as to reduce this dependency, the government came up with a solution that they would start mixing ethanol on every fuel that is sold in our country. And therefore, by 2019, the ethanol blending program was extended to all of India except the islands of Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep. The government stated that by 2030, it will start selling what is known as E20 fuels in the country. Now, what is a E20 fuel? For example, 1 liter of E20 fuel or 1000 ml of E20 fuel would consist of 20% of ethanol. This ethanol or 20%, which means that up to 200 ml of E20 fuel, it would consist of ethanol, whereas the rest of about 800 ml, this will be made using petrol. So the E20 fuel that you're buying in the market, it consists up to 20% of ethanol and rest 80% is petrol. So essentially you can understand, by blending more ethanol to petrol, the government is essentially reducing the requirement of petrol in India, therefore reducing theoretically our dependency on imports of petrol. Understood what is E20 fuel? Now let us understand How did government implement this policy? Now, government brought a national biofuel policy in 2018, which was amended in 2022, and this first of all accelerated the blending targets. It also allowed the ethanol manufacturers to diversify their sources of ethanol sourcing. For example, earlier the farmers used to manufacture sugarcane, which was used to manufacture ethanol in the factories. Now the government has been allowed to use other feedstocks like damaged food grains, crop residues, maize, etc. to make ethanol, right? So this is what the government did to diversify the production of ethanol. Similarly, it provided the companies, farmers with more support so that the growing of crops that used to manufacture ethanol also increased. For example, government provided interest subvention scheme to the ethanol manufacturers. It allowed the distilleries to get into long-term offtake agreements with the oil marketing companies. It reduced the GST on ethanol, and it also promoted free transportation of ethanol across state boundaries, which was prohibited before. So this made easier for the companies who manufacture ethanol and ultimately simplified the supply chain from the farm gate till the oil marketing companies who source these ethanol to mix it with petrol, right? So this is how government has approached with ethanol blending policy. Now, the big question that might come to your mind is, what are the benefits of such policy? Let us find out. Now, the first benefit of this policy is that it reduces our dependence on imports of crude oil. That whatever crude oil that we were importing before this policy came, now theoretically our imports would reduce, because for the same amount of fuel that we are selling right now, up to 20% of that fuel is not petrol, it is ethanol, which we are sourcing from domestic markets, right? So theoretically, there was a study done by Niti Aayog. It stated that it would lead to save India approximately about 30,000 crore of rupees every year on foreign exchange. And in reality, it has already saved the government about 1.4 lakh crore in foreign exchange savings. So this is the first benefit. It reduces our dependence on import, and therefore it reduces the outflow of dollars away from India. Second benefit is the environmental benefit. Now, fossil fuel like crude oil, like diesel, like petrol, these are fossil fuels, and burning them leads to emission of greenhouse gases, particulate matter, etc. So first of all, by reducing the use of petrol, you are reducing the greenhouse gas emission, you are reducing the vehicular pollution, which is lesser in case of ethanol as compared to fossil fuel. So another benefit is the environmental benefit, leading to less air pollution, particularly in urban areas. Also, it has a very pro impact or a very positive impact on agricultural sector in India. First of all, it is the farmers who are growing the crops using which you are manufacturing the ethanol. So basically, this gives farmers another avenue to sell their crops, and this also allows the farmers to get more income for their produce, and therefore it has increased the demand for surplus sugarcane, damaged grain, which otherwise would have gone to waste. So this leads to better income for farmers. This leads to better utilization of your farm produce, which otherwise would have wasted, leading to overall good impact on our India's agriculture sector. So these are indeed the benefits of ethanol blending program. But despite these benefits, there has been severe criticism of the scheme. Why the scheme is criticized? Now let us find out. Now, the first reason why this has been criticized by people is that use of ethanol blended fuel has resulted into reduced efficiency of your car, because burning ethanol produces less petrol as compared less energy as compared to petrol theoretically. So you'll have to burn more amount of ethanol as compared to petrol just to get the same amount of energy. So therefore, the efficiency of the car, the mileage that your car offers, is going to reduce once you put ethanol blended fuel in it instead of pure petrol, right? So owners would be forced to buy more petrol, and this would lead to more spending that the consumers or the buyers would have to do on their fuel, right? Another factor is that despite increasing blending of ethanol, the government and the oil marketing companies have not reduced the petrol prices in India, despite fuel that are available in the market that consist about 20% of ethanol, the prices of petrol that you're paying in the cities are the same, which is more than 100 rupees per liter in many cities. So this has not resulted into more savings as far as customers are concerned. First of all, they are forced to buy more fuel because of reduced efficiency of their cars, and it's not that their prices have reduced, the prices have remained the same. So these are the two challenges, economic challenges, that the customers are facing, and therefore they are criticizing the government on this. Similarly, the compatibility issue is also a big problem. Not every car that is there in our country has been manufactured right on this year. Some cars are also old, and what about the older engines? They might have been developed not keeping in the higher requirement of blended fuel in mind, right? So this might lead to potential engine wear, corrosion, and also leading to destruction of the engine. So this compatibility issue is majorly with the issue of older cars. The older cars in the market, they might not be compatible with the higher ethanol blended fuel, and that is why this can create a problem for customers. Also, this can lead to environmental stress. First of all, what is the major source using which we produce ethanol? It is sugarcane, and you understand sugarcane is a water intensive crop. So as farmers now, they are growing more and more sugarcane so as to make and sell more ethanol. This in a way has put a stress on our environment, because sugarcane is a water intensive crop, which leads to more use of land and water resources on that same crop, which could have been used otherwise in a better product, right? Also, there's a food versus fuel debate. First of all, earlier used to make and grow food which was sold in the market for edible and consumption purposes. Now, you're also growing different food like sugarcane, like crops, which are used to manufacture ethanol. And what about the time when our agricultural produce actually reduces? God forbid if that happens, but if it actually happens, it will bring a debate what kind of a thing we are using our or growing crops for, whether we are growing crops to supply food to people of India or we are growing crops to supply fuel to people of India, right? So these are competing demands. Now this in a case might divert more amount of food grains to manufacture of ethanol, which will leave out less amount of food available for people in India to eat. And this can even create a problem of food inflation in India, right? So these are the challenges and criticism that this ethanol blending of petrol policy of the government has faced. Now let us understand what will be the future outlook. Now government has realized that it has been able to achieve this target of 20% of blending of ethanol with petrol. Now it is possibly making to increase the blending of ethanol by increasing it to 27% by 2030. Although there is no official confirmation relating to it, but it is estimated to happen. Similarly, government is also encouraging the companies to come up with flex fuel vehicles that can run up with fuels that consist of 85 to 100% ethanol. So government and automakers, they are preparing hardwares and testing their engines so as to make their cars compatible. So this is the future outlook. Government is not stopping on the scheme. It is going to increase only the percentage of blending that it does with the petrol. Now, what would be the conclusion? This is a well-intentioned scheme. Yes, we all know that. But the notable gains that India has got in energy diversification and rural income has been offset by significant ecological and economic challenges. Ecological challenges that it diverts our lands away from the food supply or food security requirements, and also damages the environment because the major source of ethanol these days are sugarcane, and sugarcane being a water intensive crop, it eats away the water levels of our country. So this is the ecological challenges. An economic challenge, I've already told you that it did not lead to reduction in the prices of fuel that are available in the market, and in some cases it also leads to problem with respect to compatibility with older vehicles. And in reality, we have seen to fulfill the increased demand of ethanol in the market, now we are importing maize from other country. So what about reduction in the imports, right? This has not happened. So all of these are economic and ecological challenge that needs to be addressed if the government is going ahead with the scheme, right? So government needs to move beyond sugarcane and subsidy regime to ensure a scientifically balanced and environmentally conscious and a regionally diversified blending of petrol with ethanol, right? So this is how we conclude our today's answer. Now, I am available less on YouTube these days because right now I'm in the process of taking foundation classes of economy, which I take in the resolution batches. We have come up with another resolution batch that began few days behind, that was 8th of August. You can still take admissions to these batches, and right now is the best possible time for you to take the admission, because independent sale at StudyIQ is going on right now. Here you get as much as 47% off on your courses. Please try to take admissions, because time is of critical essence, both in terms of your preparation and in terms of availability of discounts. In case if you want to take admission, do not forget to use this code ATS Live, which helps you get a lot of discount, the maximum possible discount on all the courses. Okay. We have courses for students who are looking to give exams in 2026, 27, 28. Choose accordingly. Okay. Now let us try to solve this question. What are the most likely advantages of implementing the ethanol blending program in India? It will completely replace the use of petrol in transportation sector within next decade. The answer is no. It will reduce the use of petrol. Yes, but will it completely replace? The answer is no. Right? So these kind of extreme questions you'll have to keep in mind. In most cases, they are incorrect. Second statement, it will ensure surplus water availability in drought-prone states due to promotion of sugarcane cultivation. This is opposite. This will lead less amount of water available. Why? Because sugarcane is a water-intensive crop. Second is also incorrect. It can reduce greenhouse gas emission when ethanol is produced from sustainable feedstock. This statement is right, because I have told you, burning ethanol emits less amount of greenhouse gas as compared to fossil fuel. So therefore, this is one of the key objectives of the government, to reduce the overall vehicular emissions in India. So only third statement is right, and we have to identify correct answer. Therefore, option B is your right answer to this question. Understood how these questions appear and how you have to solve them? There is another question that I'd want you to solve. This is a PYQ of 2030. Please do let me know what is the correct answer of this question in the comment section. The ones who answer it correctly, I'll give your comments a thumbs up. And once again, if you want to download the notes, these will be made available on this particular Telegram channel, ATS Live. Subscribe to it if you still haven't, and download the notes. We'll see each other again. Please have a very good night.